How did you get involved in this project?
How to get involved in the project basically was through Dr. Ken Testa. He called me one night and he asked me whether I had seen the images on the news, and I said I'd seen some of them. Actually, I don't really watch the news, but my parents were over, and my father, who was an avid news watcher, was one who informed me and was showing me images and things of that nature. And when he called me, asked me if I had seen the images, I told him I'd seen some of them. And next words out of his mouth were, "Do you want to go to Haiti with me?" So I kind of swallowed hard, and I said, "Well, I need to ask." She kind of looked at me, and she said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I really want to go." And she said, "Well, I guess you have to go."
Okay, so it's a lot of preparation to go to a place because it has some problems. What kind of preparation did you have to do before you go? Did you get some vaccines? Had to take some medication because there was some concern about certain diseases there?
Yeah, there was some concern about diseases, and there was some medications. I mean, I got to be honest, a lot of the preparation I really left in Ken's hands because he was the one who was really making the phone calls and making the connections to make sure that we were going to be in the place that would be able to best utilize the services that we're going to be offering, as well as to put us in as safe a position as possible. So he was telling me that he was going to handle everything. He made sure that we had food. We were totally independent. We had food. We were going to bring minimal clothing. We were going to bring some supplies, and everything we were going to be bringing was going to be portable. And that he was really reliant upon me because he knew we were going to be going to the Dominican Republic. And I've been to the Dominican Republic on several occasions, so I'm very comfortable in the Dominican Republic. And also, he didn't speak any Spanish, and I speak Spanish, so that way it was really going to be a combination to allow us to be able to navigate through the whole process as best as possible.
So you flew initially to Dominican Republic, and then you took some transportation to get into the other side of the island?
Yeah, we landed in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. We met with one of the government officials, and he arranged for us to be transported to Jimini, which is a town that's just shy of the Haitian border. And that's where the hospital, Good Samaritan Hospital, was located. And it was quite a bit of travel. I mean, not just with the plane. The plane was the easiest part of it. The second part, which was the travel by car, was pretty hairy. I mean, we were going through some of the small towns, and as I said, I'm not averse to being in the Dominican Republic at all, but it's a lot to travel, and the roads are not like traveling on 95 South. They're pretty winding, and our driver was driving pretty quickly to get us there as quickly as possible.
You said a hospital. Is like a real hospital or just like a building with beds?
I mean, it was a hospital, but I would have really called it more like a clinic. I mean, one of the things that I found really interesting was, even though they'd done patient care there and they had doctors who had been there pretty consistently, there was not an X-ray machine. They did not have an X-ray machine. So with all those people who were coming with all those traumatic injuries, we actually had to wait for the X-ray machine to come in that was flown in through the Haiti airport.
So when you got there, you saw the hospital and you see what you're doing there. Did he have connections down there with some people that knew that he was coming in? He was a trauma-trained surgeon, right? So they were prepared for such a people to come in?
Yeah, there were some people. There were people who knew that he was a trauma-trained surgeon, that he was going to be coming in. So they were there to receive us. But the challenge was, with so many different groups of medical teams, it was difficult to distinguish who was doing what. The best term I could use to describe what it was like is organized confusion, because teams were landing from LSU, from Delray, Florida, from Vermont, and from all over the world, even from Spain, and people from South Africa. So you had these little teams that were coming self-contained, and then you also had these individual doctors and nurses. So it was kind of, you had to kind of fit in where you could, and everyone within a day or so kind of found their role. And once that was your role, then you kind of took that on as your responsibility, and you kind of ran that whether you were with a team or whether you were operating independently.
Okay, when you got there and everything, did you see a lot of help from the charities that people are giving money to, or you weren't sure?
I really wasn't sure, because a lot of that stuff would have probably been seen through the facilities management, because I tell you one thing, when we got there were about 700 traumatic injuries, patients that were there, and their families were there too. And these families were kind of just staying there with, some people had more than one person, some people had one person, some people had none. But the charities were definitely coming in because everyone was eating. I mean, that was the most obvious thing, that there was plenty of water and there was plenty to drink. Then when they finally got the dock, the receiving dock was set up, you would see that there was a bunch of supplies that were coming in consistently. But, you know, in the beginning, the focus really wasn't even on seeing the supplies. The focus was just there was so many injured people. But as I said, as a couple of days went by, you saw that consistently they were still receiving things. And later on, we'd see like truckloads of things were coming in. There were a couple of days where we saw, you know, trailers, these huge trailers coming in with food and supplies and medicine and stuff like that. But it didn't happen the first couple of days we were there.
So you saw a little chaos and not really well organized, but well intended stuff being done?
Exactly. That's probably a good way of putting it, because number one, this hemisphere has never seen a disaster of this magnitude. Number two, this hospital was set up for 60 beds. And as I said, we got there was over 700 traumatic injuries. Number three, there was not this whole coordinated team of people. It was more freelancers, independent teams coming in together, and then probably most notably, a huge language barrier, because most of the people who were there were American. Most of the doctors were American doctors. Now, the native language of the Dominican Republic is Spanish. The language of the Haitian survivors is Creole.
So we got problems all over the place. Barrier. Now, we heard that Israel, University of Miami, had big hospital installations there. Is that true or not true?
Well, we didn't see that at M&E. That was supposed to, from what I understand, have been located actually in Port-au-Prince.
Okay. And when you were down there, did you think, after you were in there, that down the road we should have some kind of a permanent, maybe orthopods, trauma surgeons go down there, maybe part of their training program, they should go down there so we can keep this thing going for as long as it's needed?
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest fear that I have, and that Ken shares with me as well, is that the biggest issue, obviously, was that there were so many people who were killed. And then that the disposal of those bodies, and without any other way of kind of putting it, that the disposal of the bodies. And after that was, how do you handle the traumatic injuries? Now, a lot of those traumatic injuries resulted in amputations. And the other traumatic injuries were incredibly severe. So you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people with traumatic injuries that they're going to need recovery from. Some of them are going to need prosthetics, and afterwards they're going to have to learn how to walk and function again. That's where the long term is really going to be. I think a big part of whether not just Port-au-Prince but the whole nation of Haiti is going to move forward is going to be based upon how do you get these people who've gone through this, not just physically but psychologically as well, to become as productive as they possibly can be. So the orthopods and the physical therapists, they're going to be vital going forward, yeah.
Well, I think it's a good test of humanity because it shows that people do care. You probably met some very special people that probably anything like this comes, they're the first ones to be there. And it says, you know, there's some good people in this world, and maybe we should let people know more about it so down the road that something like this happens again. I hope not for a long time, that we could get more people involved in situations so we can show people really do care in this world.
Absolutely.